Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Bellasorti. The date is the date is June 27th of 2023. Basically, I am deciding it is my duty to create a YouTube channel dedicated to my journey of learning about the events leading up and during and also after the September 11th, 2001 attacks in the United States that occurred in New York and Pennsylvania, as well as in Washington, D.C. Um, I would also like to make the audience aware that I am 26 years old. So when the events occurred, I was about 4. Um, wasn't really made aware of the event too much in my life, not until recently when I got more into researching and understanding this important pinnacle event in our country's history, how it led to a over 2 decades war of United States involvement in the Middle East, many lives lost, many families, and also veterans' lives ruined, and many other disastrous effects that it has had on our society. So after learning the information that I have been privy to seeing from many researchers such as Adam Fitzgerald, DJ Thermal Detonator, Sean Russell, and many more, I feel as if it is my duty to provide this information to a larger audience of people so we can have a more intelligent and aware society, and hopefully eventually get to the point where we can provide some sort of justice to the families of the 9/11 victims. So today, as you can see, more than likely, one of my first videos was the Carl Cameron 2001 post-September 11th report on Israeli intelligence gathering activities in the United States. This Shea Memorandum that I will be reading today has to do with those activities, but it is, once again, a preliminary report provided, so it's not definitive, cold hard evidence. However, it is compiled from police reports, such as arrest reports from those individuals from Israel that are involved, as well as different publicly available government documents. So let me get into the information. Give me 1 second while I drink some water. So just a bit of a background on the Shea Memorandum. The Shea Memorandum was a memorandum written by a man named Gerald Shea. He currently is a retired American attorney. He served as district attorney for the city of San Luis Obispo. That is a city that I have gone to, as well as a city that I'm not too far away in California. He served there for, I would say, about a decade and a half. He does have a small Wikipedia page. Um, he basically just has been an attorney, a district attorney, as well as working in the California Attorney General's office throughout his life. But he is not as well known for writing this memorandum related to Israeli surveillance of future hijackers and FBI suspects related to the September 11th attacks. So let me get into the memorandum. Once again, I want to share with the audience that this is not a conspiracy theory channel. This is a channel that is dedicated to evidence related to geopolitical events, as well as my journey in understanding the truth behind the events of September 11th, 2001. I will not entertain, I guess, out there conspiracy theories. Many examples can be stated of these theories. However, they usually don't have any evidence to back them. More than likely, they are grandiose statements that tend to catch someone's eye or ear, and try to basically divert away from the actual true information that is being released. Unfortunately, there have been some important documents released recently, such as the Canestrano document, related to Saudi Arabian intelligence gathering with the CIA, basically running an illegal intelligence gathering operation in the United States, that many people have not reported about, unfortunately. So that's one example of an important document that was just recently released, that many people in the 9/11 Truther Sphere have not either reviewed or have not reported on. So unfortunately, that is the state of our truth movement today. So hopefully with my minor contribution, I can help push the needle towards some sort of semblance of truth seeking where there actually is truth, credible truth. So that's what I'm here today to do. So this report is titled Memorandum to the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States, also known as the 9/11 Commission, also the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Its title is Israeli Surveillance of the Future Hijackers and FBI Suspects of the September 11th Attacks and Their Failure to Give Us Adequate Warning, the Need for Public Inquiry. Once again, I'd like to state for my viewers that this is a preliminary report. Yes, it does take evidence from police arrest records of different Israeli art students, and also takes information available from different intel or government agency documents that are publicly available. However, this is a preliminary report, and as you can see, Gerald Shea, in his final quote of the title, states that there needs to be a public inquiry. I agree. However, it has been more than two decades since this report has been, or memorandum has been released. So that is the state of affairs, or almost 2 decades, my apologies, since this report or memorandum has been released. So that is the state of affairs of where we are today. As you can see, the report was released September 15th, 2004, almost 3 years to the date of the September 11th, 2001 attacks. Also about 1.5 months after the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks, also known as the 9/11 Commission, released their official report after their extension, of course, but this will address that. However, let's get down to the meat of the information. We'll get through the table of contents. Hopefully this video will be about 15 to 25 minutes. I'm hoping to break this out into separate chapters. Hopefully in this first part of this video, I can go through the first 3 chapters, talking about preliminary conclusions, imperatives and priorities, as well as the introduction to the DEA report. As you can see, there are 12 sections, so I'll try to break it up into quarters. Hopefully this video will not be as long as it might be. I am new to YouTube, so this is my second video. So as I go along in my journey, I will, I guess, learn more about, I guess, my viewers' listening capabilities and how long I can keep you attentive. So this will be just a raw reading, maybe with a minor commentary on my end. I'm still kind of new to information related to 9/11. However, I have been inundating myself with this information. So if I make a comment, I hope to make a comment based on credible information. And if I make a mistake, and I capture that mistake, later I will definitely either walk back or attempt to what do we call adjust my comment so it is correct. So let's start. I'm an international corporate lawyer writing you today about a matter of public policy that is relevant to the circumstances surrounding and our preparedness for the catastrophic attacks on September 11th, 2001. I do not know whether the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks, known as the Commission, or the Senate and House Committee on Intelligence, known as the committees, have had the opportunity to consider these issues carefully. If so, I hope this memorandum will be helpful. If not, I respectfully urge them, in accordance with the mandate of the Commission's charter and in the exercise of the committee's responsibilities, to investigate the facts and resolve the questions presented. I regret that this memorandum comes to the Commission after the publication of its final report this past July. As will become evident, however, it has taken some time to assemble the facts from the raw data and other information sets set forth available in available governmental and other reports and relevant documents in the public record. Moreover, and in any event, the need to examine and resolve all the compelling issues presented here outweighs the mere appearance of completeness by putting a permanent end to the Commission's work. It is far more important to all of us that the Commission's work be accurate and complete, or at the very least that the Commission urge that these questions be explored and resolved by another panel, as independent, distinguished, and objective as itself. Both the Senate and House committees should endeavor to explore and resolve these issues as well. That's just kind of introducing the report, also kind of hopefully pushing the Senate and House committees to kind of investigate this area further. So Section 1, General Preliminary Conclusions. This memorandum, on the basis of the information set forth below, the exhibits hereto, and the reports and other documents cited herein, come to the following general preliminary conclusion. The confirmation or effective rebuttal of these conclusions can be arrived at only by a public inquiry and a thorough examination of all necessary and appropriate witnesses and all relevant documentary and other evidence. That's an important statement there. A detailed summary of these tentative conclusions is set forth at pages 49 to 52. Once again, Gerald Shea is stating that these are tentative conclusions and can only be arrived fully truthfully if there is a public inquiry. I emphasize at the outset that the purpose of this memorandum is not to accuse any individual or individuals, excluding the hijackers themselves, known as the supposed Al-Qaeda 19 hijackers, or any company of any unlawful act or any other act harmful to the United States. That will be the task of any others only after and solely if justified by the determination of all relevant facts in the course of the public inquiry. In the months leading up to September 11, 2001, the Israeli DEA groups were spying on the United States. They were at the same time keeping Arab groups in our country under surveillance, including the future hijackers and other FBI suspects in the catastrophic attacks of September 11th. The base of operations for both the Israeli DEA groups and future hijackers of the World Trade Center planes and the Pennsylvania plane was in and around Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, Florida is also where Rudy Decker's flight school was, where Mohammed Atta and his group of Al-Qaeda hijackers took flight lessons. Rudy Decker's is currently, I don't believe, is not in the country anymore. But yes, he owned Florida Flight Training School. There's a whole documentary about him and basically Mohammed Atta and his activities in the Hollywood, Florida area. However, we won't get into that, but that just shows that the Israeli groups were near or very close to the areas at which the Al-Qaeda hijackers of the September 11th attacks were living and or operating. During the same period, the Israeli New Jersey group was keeping under surveillance Arab groups in Bergen and Hudson counties, New Jersey, across the Hudson River from Manhattan, including the future hijackers of the Pentagon plane, whose center of operations was also in Bergen and Hudson counties. The Israeli New Jersey group appears to have been aware before they occurred that hijackings had been planned by Arab terrorists, as evidenced by their jubilation when the World Trade Center was first struck by the North Tower plane. That's referencing the report of the supposed dancing Israelis. Many people like to quote that report. That report was given by a woman named Maria, who happened to be living in the Doric Towers and noticed a group of, I believe it was 3 individuals, basically celebrating at the North Tower being struck by the first plane. She saw that they had lighters and were basically holding up these lighters, sort of in jubilation, as the report states, that these attacks were occurring. I'm not going to give her last name as I don't know her last name, but the first name of this woman was named Maria, and she basically called the police and stated that there was a group of individuals in a van called the Urban Moving Systems van, a company owned by a man named Dominic Suter, who happened to flee the United States for Israel after the events occurred, after the events of September 11th occurred. But yes, the individuals in question here that were jubilated at the fact that the North Tower plane or the plane has struck the North Tower were eventually arrested later that day. I'm not going to get into that, but yes, they also were interviewed on an Israeli TV show, but never fully interviewed here in the United States, which was unfortunate. Yes. Anyways, the Israeli government, through its external security agency, Mossad, warned the United States in August 2001, most notably August 23rd of 2001, that an impending catastrophic attack on our soil was being planned by Arab terrorist cells located in the United States. The warnings were the result of the Israeli group's surveillance of the future hijackers in this country. The Mossad warnings were too vague and too late to have enabled the United States to take any action to prevent the imminent attacks at unspecified location in the US, or to detain the individuals who were planning them. Why the Israeli government decided not to share with us all the critical information they had and the extent of that information is a subject for public inquiry. Yes, it is. They may have thought some sort of warning prudent in the event their surveillance activities later became a matter of public knowledge. But any energetic Israeli effort to assist the United States in preventing the attacks would not have served their strategic interests in view of the disastrous effect those attacks were to likely have on the relationship between the United States and the Arab world. Which is interesting because none of the hijackers actually came from Afghanistan or Iraq. Mohammed Atta was Egyptian. 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Other hijackers, I believe one was Lebanese. So unfortunately, I don't understand. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of why the United States would go to Afghanistan and Iraq. But that is a true statement. Israel does have enemies in the Middle East. Some of those enemies happen to be Afghanistan and Iraq. So Israel has also been blaming Iraq for many problems in the Middle East for a long time now. So that's a video for another day. However, this is what is the case of, I guess, Middle East affairs. So I guess Israel could see it in their potential interest for these attacks to occur. So continuing on, as a leader of the Israeli New Jersey group said when he was arrested on the afternoon of September 11th, this is the Danzig Israelis when they were arrested on September 11th. We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. They also stated that the Palestinians are their problems, which is not in this statement. But interesting why they would state the Palestinians are not their problems. Anyways, whether and to what extent the CIA, though surely not aware of the plans of the future hijackers before the attacks, might have been aware of or condoned the Israeli group's surveillance of Arab groups generally in the United States prior to September 11th is a further question that must be explored in the course of the public inquiry. Yes, that is true. As we know, unfortunately, as of recently, in the year 2023, the Canestrano files have documented that the CIA was running an illegal operation of domestic intelligence gathering with the Saudi Arabian government. As we know of, in the CIA's charter, it is not allowed to run domestic intelligence gathering operations in the United States. So I wouldn't bet on it, but there definitely needs to be a public inquiry, and if there's a way that the 9/11 movement can effectively pressure the United States government to obtain approval or set in motion a public inquiry of these questions set forth in this memorandum, then I think that that would be a win, because definitely people need to be brought to justice. So the CIA's explanation of why 2 future hijackers were placed on a watch list in August 2001, as set forth in the Commission's final report, is implausible and may have been designed to conceal the Israeli warnings. This consideration, along with other important factors discussed below, opens the door to a thorough investigation of this issue as well. Section 2. Imperatives and priorities. It need hardly be observed that the demands of justice and national security and the rights of the victims and their survivors require that our first imperative as a nation be to find and bring to justice Osama bin Laden and his coadjutors, as well as other members of Al-Qaeda and all others who bear responsibility for the horrendous loss of life on that terrible September day. That work is, of course, the charge of our political, intelligence, defense, military, and defense establishments and our judiciary. That's an important statement, as he is basically stating the need for justice in terms of supposedly going after the perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks, such as Al-Qaeda members, as well as Osama bin Laden, who is the supposed mastermind of the attacks, or the leader of Al-Qaeda. Unfortunately, that doesn't take any importance away from others who could have potentially known and not shared information related to the attacks that we could have potentially used to stop the attacks prior to them taking place. That's why Gerald Shea multiple times in this memorandum states that there needs to be a public inquiry on the information set forth. The Commission's task is a collateral and subordinate one: to investigate the circumstances surrounding and our preparedness for the September 11th attacks, in the hope that we can prevent one from ever happening again. This is the charge of the committee. What is going on? This is the charge of the committee as well. This memorandum, therefore, while it naturally stresses for the benefit of the Commission and the committees the present issues relating to surveillance and disclosure before and at about the time of the attacks, should not be mistaken as any effort to place the blame for the cause of our suffering on anyone but Al-Qaeda and its members, or to weaken the resolve of our country in finding, capturing, and punishing those who have brought such misery to so many of us. That's an important comment on here. Any viewers of this document or this video and my raw reading of it who want to state that I'm an anti-Semite, it is not true. I am trying to take this raw reading of information that unfortunately has been shown that the Israeli government has had one of the largest intelligence gathering operations in the United States history on our country. I'm basically trying to bring this information to light because a lot of people who are in the 9/11 truth movement don't even know about this memorandum. So unfortunately, this is information set forth herein about a government of another country, a very, I guess, a very strong ally of the US government. However, it is not anti-Semitic to bring this information up. This information is public information. This information is definitely justified through this memorandum as needing a public inquiry further into delving into this information. So once again, do not go and place the blame on the entire country of Israel and its persons who occupy the country for basically manufacturing these attacks. That's not true. That's not the stance or position I take. I'm basically following the information that is provided in a conscious and a smart and cautious manner so as to not place the blame on a single person or country. Because I believe that that is very, how do you say, that is very lackadaisical, lazy, and it's not very smart thinking. So going further, in section 3, final section titled the DEA report of this video, in June 2001, the Office of Security of the Drug Enforcement Administration issued a long report, the DEA report, describing in precise detail the attempts of approximately 125 or more nationals of a foreign country, most posing as art students, to penetrate several DEA field offices in the continental United States. Many of these individuals also visited the residences of numerous DEA officials and other agencies to facilitate and the residences of their employees. The DEA report states that these incidents have occurred since at least the beginning of 2000 and have continued to the present. They were ongoing activities in the summer of 2001. A copy of the DEA report is attached as Exhibit A. I will be reading the DEA report in further raw readings in my channel. But yes, this concludes the final, I guess, part of this video. I hope to continue this reading and post the remaining, I would say, 4 sections of this report, as well as reading of the addendums later, hopefully in this month. Yes, thank you for listening to the video, and I hope that you gleaned some important information that you can share with your family as well as friends so that we can become a more aware and intelligent community of individuals, so that we can come together and we can do something to basically obtain justice for the families of the September 11th victims and gain a better understanding of the attacks of 9/11. Thank you.